You might not like to be, mainly these women and men do, and she said mainly they're watercolors, and I said, well, they don't want to see me come over and do more watercolors. You'll all be snoozing by the time I'm done, and so I said, come on over to my house and I want to show you this watercolor batik that I've gotten into, and people really enjoy it, not only beginners, but advanced people, because it's different, it's really different, it's very forgiving. Let's say as we all get older, your hand shakes a little bit. It doesn't hardly make a bit of difference, because you'll see as I go through this process how the pictures are going to end up, something that you won't quite expect. And it's just fun. And a lot of my students, mainly women, all of their husbands seem to say, oh, we're going to do another watercolor batik. And you know, all the beautiful things we do, and this is what the husbands seem to go for. But you never know. So I've tried to bring some different things to share with you. We had talked a little bit about having a hands-on demo, and we would have done this with a little individual water lily. But as you see, as the process goes on, it's not that it's hard, but I'm using a hairdryer to dry before I wax. I'm waiting for the wax to dry. So there's a lot of things going on, and it would have been people up and down and up and down, and we would have been here till easy at 10 o'clock, and that's conservative. So anyhow, this picture came from here, and you can see that I changed the color of the water lily. I didn't really like the yellow, so it's got more pink tones in it here, and I've got a little nice dark water around it. And I was telling them I get most of my things framed over at Gaston Art, right over here in Northborough. He's really a great guy. So if you're looking for a good framer, you know, even instead of going to some of the other places like Michael's, and I'm not putting them down with their coupons, he always has some really nice frames that are made up from leftover big frames that he might have had. And so you're going to get some really good quality frames for, I can't see the price on this, but maybe I paid $20 for the frame. But obviously then I have to pay to have it put together, etc. But you can really get some good bargains there, particularly if you live in Northborough and can stop by and check it to see what he's got. So if I'm out heading over there, I always take something with me to be framed, because I never know what I might find. So I hope as I'm doing my little talk, I hope you'll say, you know, I don't get that, or ask me a question, because it will give me the chance to even share more things that I might know with you. So on that being said, I'm going to start off and just pass out a couple of these pieces of paper. These are just pieces of rice paper, okay? And everything that I have done here tonight is done on rice paper. And you can feel it. It's called, you can have kin-washi rice paper, gin-washi rice paper. There are different kinds. It's very fine, it's very thin, and you'll see all these fibers running through it. So it's an interesting paper to just, you know, pass these around, just so you can get a feel of it.
Bonnie, where do you get the rice paper?
Good question. Usually I buy mine at Jerry's, Jerry's Autorama. I don't know anybody that carries it in the area, but maybe in Boston, but around in this area. But, you know, easy enough just to order from Jerry's Autorama. So, as you're looking at that little paper, I have tried to, you know, start some of the steps. And honestly, 3 times I put my pen, so I'm going to write where my pen is. Now I don't know where it is.
Did I have a fit?
Okay, so I tried to jump ahead, and so you wouldn't have to watch me do this whole boring thing. So here is my pattern, my design. So if you were to do a class, let's say with me, or with anybody else that has a design, they would give you a pattern, and they would give you the rice paper. And so I would fill the rice paper, and I would have the smooth side up, because I'm using one of these micro pens, and it's got a fiber tip on it. And so we want to have the smooth side up, otherwise the tip gets stuck in all those fibers. I mean, can you do it the other way? I've had a couple of students do it backwards, but you're fighting the fiber the whole time. So I'm just going to do just a little inking just to show you. That would be the first thing that I would do. I would have this, I would adhere it to my pattern, and then I would ink the design. So already you've got a good design on there because you've got a definite pattern and you're just honestly following the lines. So here I am, a left-handed. I'm using the 05 pen. Sometimes if I was doing something small, I might be using an 01. If I wanted it heavier, I might be using the 8. It really doesn't matter, it's just kind of what your preferences. So as you can see, I'm just outlining a few of these lines on the lily pads. And honestly, like I say, you can't go wrong. All right, so we'll make believe I've just finished inking this design. So my design is ready to go. I've got it all on here. I've got it all inked. If you made a mistake, doesn't matter. Unless, of course, you're like me and some other people, you know, you're really worried what? What can I say to that? So you have to be very careful when you're taping the paper because it's very delicate. It gets stronger as I add the wax to it, okay, because it starts to fill up with wax. And I'll let you feel it afterward. It will get stronger, but at this point, it's pretty fragile. So I have to kind of be careful of what I'm doing. Okay, so here is my design, and I don't know if you can see this, but I've tried to jump ahead and do a couple of steps. I have done a process that's called decaling. I have decaled the edge. You can see I've ripped it off, okay? So I don't know if I can do this, and you can see me what to do. But when I decal an edge, I'll decal like one side, so you can watch how I do it. I'm going to take my brush, just a round watercolor brush, and I'm going to take some water, dampen it off a little bit. And I'm only going to do about 3 inches at a time, and I'm going to dampen down the edge. I'm going to let it soak in for a minute. And then what I'm going to do, and I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, and I guess I'm going to have to kind of put it down, but I like to hold one edge with my hand, and then I just, almost like a little mouse, chewing at the edge. I've softened the fibers, and I like to hold it with my other hand. Sometimes when you're ripping this edge, if you don't hold it, sometimes you grab a fiber and it'll go in too far, but you know, people just say that adds to the beauty of the piece. So I have gone around, I've done 3 edges, and that's how I kind of stop. I don't think there's hardly anybody that leaves this edge straight because it's so much more interesting with this deckled edge. And like I say, this may be the only thing that you might use in something else that you might do. Okay, so then, all right, let's make believe that is all deckled. And this design that I have done, even though it's deckled, as I've painted it, I've let the design run outside the hard line that I put on the edge. And I just thought, you know, instead of doing the whole paper, I'd make it look a little different, and I like the way it turned out. So after you do that, you take, and this is a piece of freezer paper, okay, slippery side up. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this now, and I'm going to attach it to the freezer paper just a little bit until we kind of get into this.
The freezer paper something you get at the grocery store?
Yeah, you just buy it at a grocery store.
Can you use alec paper also?
What's that paper?
Alec paper?
Probably sure it's the same thing as slippery, yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, definitely. So I've got this in here now because we're going to start with the wax over there in a minute. So what we're going to do, I have made some diagrams that I'm going to be following. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to be using my wax as a resist. And when I put the resist on and then I paint, wherever the resist is, it's going to stay white. So when you look at this picture, you'll see some little white edges. You can probably see it pretty good in here. Here's, you can see it the best in this actually. This is a class I was teaching to a group, and you can see all her white spots. She decided she didn't care for my colors, and she was going to do her own thing. But honestly, I thought it came out beautiful. And you can see when she did that first waxing, they really show up well. So that's why we're starting off anything that I want in my picture to be white. Like say if you were looking at my laundry hanging over here, that would have been the first thing I did to this whole picture, would be to put wax where I wanted the highlights to be on the shirt or whatever it is hanging out the window. And on the, the geese over there, whatever is the whitest is where I started out first and put the wax. So I'm very thankful to this girl that did it like that. Really helps me out. So I'm not going to spend too much time because I don't want you to get bored. Making a lot of different things. So I'm going to be following my little road map. Okay, and I'm not going to do all of it, but I'll do some of it. I have special brushes over here. I'm sure all of you end up with crappy brushes. And so they're just perfect for this technique, okay? Even though they're crappy now, as soon as I put them into the wax, the wax will form on and it will give me, a nice edge. So I've got my Gulf wax, which you can buy that at the grocery store. Harder to find now. I think I bought the last one at Coopman's Lumber. They had it. Sometimes during canning season you can find it at the grocery store. And the price has gone from like $2 to $10. So wax has really gone up. So looking at my diagram and looking at my picture, I'm going to start doing a little bit of this waxing. I have the wax in the pan, the frying pan, and some people can buy these little, almost like little hot pots, or like little sterno pans. You could melt the wax in there, or I can give you a lady's name and you can get it. But people have donated frying pans to me, so I've been quite lucky. So I have two with me tonight in case this one should happen to die. So I have the wax in here. It's been melting. It's at 200 degrees, okay? If it's not at 200 degrees, it won't flow on nicely. And if I get it too much hotter, it might ignite itself. It might get flammable. So, we want to be careful. So I'm going to dip my brush in here. I'm going to look at my diagram. And I'm going to kind of have a plan or know where I'm heading. Because by the time I get from my wax to my paper, my wax may have dried. And like I said, I'm not going to be too fussy because I just want you to see. And I'm painting just like I'm painting with watercolors or with oil paints. Just any place I think, I think I want this to stay white, I'm just going to add some of this on some of the edges. But some of my students will, they'll get their brush full of wax and then they'll, and by then the time they get over here, the wax is dry. So you need to have a plan. You need to know where you're kind of going. So, and now of course I've got fiber stuck right on the tip of the brush. So there's some at all different edges. There's some on the edges of the lily pads. Some on the lily itself. If you want to make some of these little dots. On some of the line work on the pad itself. And as you can see, I'm not being very fussy. So that's the first thing, the first two things you do. You would ink, you would deco, you would put it onto the wax paper, and then you would have some kind of a diagram to follow to wax out the first white areas. So now that I've got that done, I'm going to let that set for a minute, and I'm going to go to the second step. Okay, you can see this has got a lot on the second step on it. But like I say, not having done this as a demo, it was hard for me to be able to gauge how long things will take me. So the first thing I did on this one, and I'm going to repeat part of it. I think I'll do it on here. I'm going to make a light value yellow. And I'm going to cover over the whole thing in light yellow.
And you're using watercolors?
Yes, these are all watercolor paints that I'm using. The only trouble with me making this big enough so you could see it, obviously it takes me longer to do it. See if I can get it on here so you can see. So you can see I'm running my brush right down this edge, but it won't take it because that's where I put a good amount of that hot wax. Again, I put a lot on this edge here. Now luckily, I'm going to make that center into an orangey color, so I don't care that I'm covering it up. And the same thing is true of the leaves. This is cad yellow light that I'm doing.
It seems like the wax is doing part of the job for you.
It is. And I wasn't careful enough, I didn't take the time to put it every place that I should have put it. But I'm just going to base focus one thing, so you can kind of see. There's another place I got a lot of nice wax down there. Okay, so that, you can see exactly where I put the wax. I did it here, there, here, here. So I think what I'll do, I won't use my hair dryer to let it dry. So this is the first step, okay? And if you were to do a class with me, I would be giving you a set of instructions that would tell you, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. That has to dry. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to let this dry. But I'm going to take my number 2 picture. I guess I'm going to take this one, and it'll be a little darker, but it'll be okay. I'm going to add a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of opera on some of the petals. And honestly, the one that I've kind of finished here, I've done a lot of different things to it because I wasn't happy with it. It just didn't have enough oomph. So I've just got a little bit of the opera on my brush. Okay, now, see how that's kind of bubbling up here? Well, that's because this piece is already in the next stage. This has already been waxed. Okay, so I can't jump a step just because I want to show you something different, because it won't adhere to that because I've already waxed that. So, instead of letting this dry, I'll come back to this, and I'll put some of the opera on a couple of these. And if you're a watercolorist, it's always going to dry a little bit lighter. So you can put as little or as much that you would like on it.
How many classes does it take to finish your apartment?
That's a good question. This little project down here, I just taught it about a month ago, and that's how I knew how I couldn't do this with this group. That took us, we got started at 9:30 and we finished at 12:30. And there were 10 people in the class. But like I say, we had to keep waiting for it to dry, or this and that, and it just takes time. So if, let's say you were to come to my house to do one of these, this one will probably take from 9:30 to probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that would be taking probably a 45-minute break to have lunch. But sometimes that's good taking the break because you know, you can let it dry without the hair dryer. And what happens sometimes when we're using the hair dryer to dry, my students will say to me, oh, I'm so careful. I'll say 12 inches away and back and forth with the hair dryer. Well, they'll get carried away and they'll hit that wax and it will bleed back into the flower just where you don't want it. So if you have the luxury of letting it dry, because sometimes, say if I have a class of 6 people, I'll say to somebody, go out in the sunshine, because just stand out there in the sun and you haven't got the hair dryer and you don't have to worry about that wax moving. I mean, is it a big deal? No, but if you want it to be perfect, well, it won't be, because you can't really help using the hair dryer and holding it back and forth and drying this. Maybe I'll do just a little bit. You can see I'm pretty close to it because I really don't care what happens to it. After you really get into it, you don't need this tape here because the wax will start to do a lot of waxing and it will be stuck to this freezer paper. So we won't need this and taking the chance of dripping our little corners. Okay, so I've got to give myself a minute here to regroup because I'm trying to go through things so you won't be bored. So anything you can think to ask me, ask away. I think I'll talk about the interior of this. Obviously, you're all probably good painters, and you can see that I painted the center of this with, it already had yellow, and then I added some orange to it. Or if you had red and orange, yellow made orange, I deepened it up a little bit here to make my center a little bit more interesting. So that's basically what I've done to this flower. I have put wax to save my whites. I base coated it in yellow. I've come back and added opera because I happen to like that color. Anything would work, and you know, red or whatever was from. I put orange in the center to make that stand out a little bit, and that's basically what I've done to this flower. At the end, which we'll get to the end, I'll show you how you can darken and do different things to it. I've come in and made this kind of a gray pink, which I happen to like better. But if you have a mistake and you don't like it, you can come back and correct something. Then I also took on this piece, you can see that I have a light coat of yellow on all the lily pads. I tried not to get too much on the outside edge where we're going to be putting the water. So here's a lily pad that doesn't have any wax in it. I think it's just the center flower that I've waxed. So after I have that first coat of yellow on here, and I have wax coming out on the lines, maybe on the dots, then I came and I mixed up a green color to base coat the lily pads. And what I used mainly, I used sap green, a little of the yellow, and a little of the alizarin. So take some sap green. And I decided sap green by itself was too bright. I added a dot of alizarin because I know green and red are complementary colors, and it'll tone it down just a little bit. That's a little bit too much. That doesn't look too bad. Okay, so I've got to color that I'm going to base coat. It probably won't even look anything like it. And I'm going to put coat, oh, that's not too bad. So, the reason I have this wax is because when I was doing the other demonstration, I didn't want this green to run into my flower. So I had to preserve my flower. So here I am down here with my green.
So you wax the whole flower?
I had waxed the whole flower,
And
yes.
the color.
So then sometimes a little bit of it will bleed up under, it will catch one of those fibers, and you just can't help it. It just follows the line of the fiber. I don't really mind if this green runs out into my water area, but I'm going to stop a little short of my edge so it doesn't continue to go out way into the water. Sometimes you think you've done a good job and you turn around and look at it and come back in a minute and it won't be so good. You never know what's going to happen.
Can you add the wax at any point?
Well, you can add the wax at any point, but once you add the wax, there's no going back. Okay, that's it. Until you get to the end and you get rid of the wax. So you can see here, even though I stopped short of the line because of the rice paper and the fibers, it's carrying my watercolor paint out beyond where I really want it. Sometimes if I'm doing a very specific, let's make believe I'm doing a very specific design and I don't have the area around it waxed. Let's say I was working on these bleeding hearts. Now maybe I didn't care if a little pink got out here, but if I did, I was taking the paint, sucking it out of the ferrule, so I basically had a dry brush, and then I was applying the paint at the middle area, and then just watching it very careful to see how it was going to go. I mean, I can see that I maybe put the pink that you're seeing when I did the background. Some of it maybe is a bleed out, but it looks like I was pretty specific, so.
When it bleeds on the rice paper, can you absorb it?
Some, you can, if you're quick enough, sometimes you can get a paper towel, you know, and get in here and blot it,
You know,
and stop some of it. Sometimes you can take your brush and clean it. Let's see, like over here. I mean, this is a place I don't care about, but if I did, I would add a good amount of water to this and just kind of try to soften up a little of that green color. So it might be there a little bit, but see how that helped already? Yep. Take the color back. So there are tricks to everything, just like every medium. There's always a trick that you can use as you work on some of these things. Let me, like I say, I'm always trying to think ahead now so I can do this. I don't want to do it too quick, so I hope you'll, like I say, ask me some questions as we move along here. Like I say, I tried to start doing up on the edge here what I did on the edge on this one, and let some of it just bleed up because I thought it was just kind of a prettier thing to do. This is pretty wet. This is, and another thing that you have to do, you have to be careful of all watercolor underneath and keep wiping it so it just, otherwise it won't dry and there's a little mess going on. Okay, so basically, I've done the flower. Anybody have a question on how I've done this flower? No. All right, and I've got these kind of in the second stage of lily pads. This one is in the first stage. See that I've got this one cooler, and this one's surely running out a little bit. I'll do it this one, and I can do that. All right, so even though I did use my hairdryer, this is still pretty wet over here. So we're just going to hold it on just for a minute, because I think what we'll do is, I think, you know, this is going to be a quicker demo than I thought. We're going to let this dry a little bit more, and then I'm going to move on, and I'm going to show you how I applied. if I can't work this out a little bit. Maybe a little bit too strong, maybe I could have started off with a little more water in it. Seems to be okay, and you can tell, see, it's leaving all the lines that I had waxed. I'm going to take my paper towel, I think that's a little strong to get started with. Okay. Well, that doesn't, in the scheme of things, that really doesn't seem too bad. I'm going to do one more thing and then I'll let you have a break. So I'm going to try to mix up this color that was on the edge of the lily pads. And this is a picture, actually, that my husband had taken when we had gone over to Mendon. Okay, I don't know if you've been over to Mendon where they have all the hostas. It's a hostathon in Mendon. Well, in the back, if you walk down in the back, they sell, or they have a lot of lilies to sell. And this was a photo that he had taken. And so, you know, I happened to say, oh, you get some pictures? And I thought, oh, this is going to work out perfect. So that's where I had gotten this. And if you have a chance, I know they're only open like 4 different times in the summer, but well worth a trip over there. So the edges on these were kind of like a cranberry brown color. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of alizarin crimson and some burnt umber and maybe a dot of purple. So I've got some here on my pad that I had already mixed up from before. But what I'm going to try to do to control this a little bit, I'm going to take some of the color out at the ferrules. So when I press down with the tip of my brush, it doesn't go crazy on me. So I've got kind of a nice little area down here. Let's see what I'm going to do. Well, I'm not going to do anything here. No, there it goes. I obviously had some hot wax that bled down here, and it won't let me do that edge. To make some little dots in here darker. Let's see how this works with this one. It's not working too bad. And you can see I don't really care about what's happening in here because that's going to be water. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry. And I think if you want to take your break.
Sure.
Is this a bad time?
Yeah, this is a good time.
Oh, okay, well then we'll take a break. I'll dry this some more and then we'll continue on with it. So, and you know, feel free to walk up here, look at any of these, ask me anything you can think of, take my card, whatever, whatever you can think of to ask. You have that in the register. You do that. You know, I always say to my students, you know, use the biggest brush you can use. And the reason I've got these little blue things on my brushes is so you can hang them on the edge of the pot and they don't fall into the pot. All right, so I'm going to start trying to be reasonably careful. I'm not going to be as careful as I should be. So what I'm doing now is I'm waxing out these lily pads with a little bit of care, but it really won't add. So I'm going to wax, you know, the comment somebody just made to me as they were looking at my little sample over there, that's just got the wax on it. It almost looks like a piece of stained, oops, well that's going to be a really bad no-no. Really bad. Oh well. So, I should have, here's another thing, if you're working it, obviously it starts to stick to your freezer pan. So you want to make sure that you go back and release it, because if you wait too long, it's just stuck there, and you're heating it up with a hair dryer, and it's just a huge problem.
Do you ever have problems with the color moving with the wax when you use it?
No, no. I mean, I have plenty of problems with that. That's not one of them. Okay, so here we are. I'm reasonably happy with the job I've done on the waxing. And I've mixed up a nice dark blue that I'm going to come back with. It doesn't have any, as much water as something like that. But I want a nice, intense, rich blue. But I don't have to be too careful, because it should not, if I've done a decent job of waxing, it shouldn't move back into the petals of the flower or the lily pads. You can see I can do a good job here. All right.
If it totally sticks to the wax paper, the freezer paper, is that a problem?
Definitely. Because I'm always saying to my students, keep track of how much it's sticking there, because we can get it off, but sometimes it's stuck so bad, and the paper has become so fragile, it's a nightmare.
Why wouldn't you just let the freezer paper stick to it? And
Well,
frame it?
because as we keep going, you'll see.
Oh.
You'll see more. Yeah. Because we're getting to the best part.
Can you actually overwax? Is it possible
Yes.
to get the wax to
That's a
bleed in?
good question too. You can overwax, and again, you'll see why you can overwax. Some people, I won't even go there, but as I keep talking, ask me some of these questions again. Because I hate to ruin the surprise that will be in. And I, honestly, after all these years of teaching it, it's just so much to teach beginners, because they're just thinking, oh my God, look what she's doing. And, you know, maybe I'm a little, like my husband's probably thinking, she's a little masochistic, I don't know. But it's great. You know, they're just putting out 5 hours of painting time in with me, and now I'm telling, well, I'm sorry, what I'm telling you. But anyhow. Okay, so I didn't do too good a job here. I'll be surprised if it goes in here. I don't know if you can see it, but wax in there. And so over here, let's see, this is where I really made it wonder. So you can see where that big run of wax went in here. Now, just know that I'm not doing a precise job, because it's more important that you see how this whole thing works out than me doing a perfect picture.
Probably good that you overwax so they can see that.
That's
You
true.
have to control it.
Okay, so let's make believe at this point, I'm saying to my students, okay, that's it, we're done with the painting. Unless you wanted to go back and, let's say, put another coat on the water, you can't touch anything else here because it's already been waxed. This whole thing, except for the water, has been waxed. So now I have to wait a minute. I'm going to have to wait until this is dry. I am going to dry it, because I can't put hot wax on wet paper. It just doesn't work. So it'll just take me a minute to dry this blue, and then it'll just keep on going. do. I'm gonna sacrifice this as a little guinea pig. Diane, could you put this in the freezer or refrigerator just for a couple of minutes? And I'll try to do it to that one too. We'll have this one. The reason I put my pieces
In the freezer,
yeah,
right?
just set it on the
Okay.
Cold storage.
This is quite quiet.
Okay, so now that's nice and dry. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take, and make sure it's not stuck down anyplace. And I'm gonna use a bigger brush, and I'm gonna put a coat of wax over this whole thing.
Now, is the brush synthetic or natural fiber, or does it make a difference?
It's any old crappy brush that I can get my These are $1.25 at $1 maybe at Coupons.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, and people that move away, they give me their brushes, so whatever.
And putting it in wax wasn't helpful.
So you can see, you don't have to be, somebody asked me a question, can you put on too much wax? Yes, you can. So I'm trying to think about what I'm doing. I'm just coming down in strokes. I'm not going this way, that way. I don't want 10 coats of wax on here because I've already got a coat of wax on the lily. I've got a coat of wax on the pad. I don't want so much wax buildup because it won't do what I want it to do in the next step. Okay, so I need to be on the quick side because I've got to get this off of here. Okay, so we're just gonna let this set for a few minutes and then talk a little bit. Okay, so that one's just kind of cooling off. Diane has put the other one into the freezer. I can see the best one, I guess between this and this you can see what we're gonna do next. You can see in this picture, and this was just a little demo, it doesn't show it. Okay, and this is a little demo of what we're going to do next. We are going to take, and because it's all wax, I'm going to take and do a technique to it, and then I'm going to take one of the colors that is already in the design, and you can see I have blue in the sky here. So I have chosen to do a blue-gray color, mainly in the outer edge. I've got a little green in here. We are going to add more color, so some of these fibers are going to pick up this color. And you can see when I taught this class on this little one, I didn't have it finished, but I needed them to understand what we were going to do. I had chosen blue-gray again, and we're going to break up the wax, and I'm going to be rubbing it, and I'm going to hope that I've cracked the wax enough that some of the color goes into or in between the fibers. And you could tell I had chosen, no, that's not true. I did rub the opera color in here. I mean, it's really ugly, but you can see what I had done. You can see what I've done. So we're going to hope that this is going to work out. So, what I'll have you do, Diane, I'll have you take this one and put it in the freezer, and then bring me the other one back. Now maybe because I'm doing a demo and I really want it to work good tonight, maybe it just won't work at all, but you'll get to see the process and you'll see the fun. You'll see it'll be really fun. And I think because I've got it all mixed up, I think I'm going to use, I got a lot of blue left. I think I'm going to use the blue here. So I'm going to take this little piece, she's had it in the freezer, and I'm going to roll it into a little ball. kind of tiny, that's why hopefully I can do the other one. And what I'm trying to do by rolling it into a ball, I'm trying to hope that that wax is gonna crack. Okay, and then I'm gonna open it back up. And you can see, maybe you can't from where you're sitting, it's hard to even tell, which is, this is definitely fun. You can see it looks all cracked. Okay, see it's all cracked and messy. So what I'm gonna do now is, like I say, the other bigger piece may work out better. I'm gonna take, I really don't want to put tape on. If I was working at home, I wouldn't put tape on, but I can't hold it up and demonstrate without that piece of tape. So what I'm gonna do now is, I've put it in the freezer, I've taken it out, I've rolled it into a ball, I've cracked it, this one's dead. And now I'm gonna take some of this dark blue color, and I'm mainly gonna put the dark blue out on the leaves, and I'm gonna use the edge of my brush, and I'm just gonna scrub it back and forth, and I'm hoping that this color is going to settle in to some of these leaves. You really need to kind of scrub it back and forth, and it looks like it's going to be doing a little more than I want, but you can see how I've added that color. I think, just for demonstration purposes, I think I'm going to just take a little bit of this ochre. See if I can add a little ochre in here. See if it's going to work. And, you know, usually if I have this laying down flat, I'm really rubbing hard to get some of this color into the cracks. Some of the students that I have that do these with me, they don't like to do this, and they don't do it, they just leave it finished, they'll take that wax off. All right, so now I'm gonna have to give it just a minute to settle down, because like I said to you, we don't want hot wax on this. But I'm going to take, and I'm going to bury this color that I just put in here under another coat of wax. Okay, so let's just give it a minute. Anybody have any questions?
So your goal is to have a kind of a model.
That's perfect, yes. A modeled look so it's not flat. And this is how we get a lot of the interest in the boutiques. I don't think this one that I did, I think I did some fly specking. I don't really think I did a lot of this on this one. I don't think I cracked that one. This one, for sure, I know I cracked, because you can see all these things that happened to the birds. So for sure I cracked this one. And same thing with this, you can see all this glue all over the place. This one, I don't think I did honestly too much on that one. And I did on the bleeding hearts. I definitely did it in the background. You can see it in the background. Because somebody was up here asking me the questions. And you can see that all around the edges, I use blue and green.
It gives it a great look.
It does give it a great look. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my big fat wax brush, and I'm going to bury, I'm going to just kind of bury this into the paper. So I'm not doing this, I'm just plop, plop, plop. I'm just pushing that into the paper. Okay, so now we've got a nice hot, off the press picture. So we're going to let that rest for a minute. And I need to plug in my iron. Okay, let me ask you this before I decide how I'm going to proceed. Would you like, after I've done this one and ironed it, you can see how the whole thing has worked out. Would you like me to do the one that's in the freezer because it's bigger? Because I'm going to have to unplug the wax. So you say, yes, you would like to. Okay. All right, so maybe then we'll iron on the chair. So don't worry, I won't do anything bad. I've got my towel.
That's fine, Bonnie.
All right, so what I'm gonna be doing, I've got, because of the area, I've got my towel, I've got my newspaper. I don't know how you get it, but no, that's okay. So, they say you can use the color pages, but if you can do black and white, that's the way I learned, that's the way I'm gonna proceed, with black and white. All right, so, because I got a little piece, I'm going to put my picture down here, I'm going to fold this over, I'm going to have it on here, I'm going to get my iron plugged in.
Bonnie, we have that we could plug this in.
Well, it'll be okay. I only need, you know what, Diane, why don't you come up and hold this towel flat, so it doesn't keep running off the chair and I don't set the chair on fire.
That might be better.
That will work. I don't want the towel.
Do you want me to get that extension cord?
Nope, I'm good. All right, so, sandwich in between the newspaper. Okay, and I'm gonna start to iron. I'll try.
Now, I will stand back.
Watch over your fingers. So, okay, you can see as I'm ironing, see the wax starting to come through? So I'll keep doing that. Okay, so now that's saturated. Okay, but so I'm not done.
I don't know.
That's not even funny. So I'm switching now to get another piece of newspaper. So you keep ironing until you no longer see the wax coming out of the paper.
Now, do you have to get an old iron?
Good question. It doesn't hurt, but you know, I've used my regular iron. It doesn't do anything, I mean, this isn't an iron, but it doesn't do anything bad to the bottom of the iron.
Oh, okay.
The ink in the newsprint doesn't?
No, the
Doesn't
newsprint
problem?
doesn't bother it. Some people use brown paper bags. I never have, like I said, some people use newsprint that have pictures all over it. I do not do that, just because, you know, I figure whatever can go wrong will go wrong. I see that I'm still getting wax out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and you'll know when it's time to quit. Wow. Surprised I'm still getting some wax out of it. All right, so let's see, let's feel this. Okay, well, it did a little something. Why don't you go walk around and you can see where it's come through on the corners and change it. Maybe that was the wrong side. I think that, there, this is the right, so, yes, it did, it looks good. It looks
People
good.
can pass it around?
Yeah, pass it around and look at that. And then if you want me to do the other one,
Do you want me to go get the other?
right, is everybody willing to have me do it the other one, or are you satisfied? Okay, we're gonna, I'll have to get that out, and don't leave this.
You've seen a million.
Yes.
Only the first bathroom I've done.
It seems to be a little thicker with wax.
It does, because I could probably,
Yeah.
yes. And the one going around will seem a little thicker too, because you never get every single bit of wax.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay, so here, oh, this is good. This came out nice and cold. So now you're gonna be able to see. Here's the one that I waxed the whole thing. You know, and then, like I said, you can really appreciate it now. So this is how I just crumple the whole thing up and it just kills them. So one of my husband's still with me after 50 years. But anyhow, so, and then honestly,
I know.
as you open it up, sometimes the girls put so much wax on it, they uncrinkle it, and it's like it's snowing out. They have so much, see it coming, all the wax coming out? I mean, so you want to have enough wax, but you don't want to have so much wax that you don't get those cracks. And honestly, how do you know if you've got a happy medium? You don't. But it's all fine. All right, so we're going to try to crack this one. We're going to see how it's going to work. But it's the lady that I used to take from, she never put her stuff in the freezer. And honestly, I think it really helps, because I was honestly going to come with my own little bag with ice cubes, and then I thought, oh God, they've got to have a refrigerator here with a freezer. So anyhow, I'm going to mainly aim, just like I did before, for my greens and maybe a little on the yellow. Let's see if I've got my paint left here. I'm going to put it down a little bit, give it a little bit. And I'm using the side of my brush, and I'm really pushing the color into it. But like I said, this is the most fun. I mean, you could put any color out here, but it's nice to go with the palette that you. Let's make believe you'd like to do the water lily, but June 6th is a bad day. If you're interested in it, put your name down and phone number, and maybe over here next to the one say bad date. But I'll know that you're interested, and I'll have your phone number. So if I come up with another day, I mean, maybe everybody in this room, June 6th wouldn't work for anybody, or maybe none of you really are interested. But maybe you want to take a card. You might be interested in the geese and not the water lily, because you've watched me do it, and obviously you can watch the video, and I can leave a set of instructions with you if you want a set of instructions to share. But if you're just plain all interested, these are the two that I might say that I'll have this summer that will be easier than a couple. I know I'm going to do a harder one, and I wouldn't suggest you come over to do a harder one. And if you don't like coming for all day, when you put your name down, say, I'd rather come 3 Wednesday nights, or 3 Tuesday mornings, or whatever. I mean, I can be pretty accommodating if people are interested, but if you don't tell me, then I won't know. I've got a couple of pencils if you're half interested, and put a question mark after your name with your phone number. So, but thank you. I hope you had fun. So I don't know how this is going to work out, but I think I got through it, and I think but I think, yeah.
Do you ever get any of the color in the wax?
If you come up and look, you can see it's getting dirty.
Okay.
Yes, it is getting dirty. It's not too bad. It's still pretty clear. Some of the deposits are at the bottom if you look at it. But I will use this up to pretty much the end, because I have never cleaned out one of these wax things. So you can see some of that stuff in the bottom.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, if you do it at home, really, my husband will tell you, he'll come down, he'll be upstairs, I'll be downstairs, and say, I know what you're doing down there, I got a wax thing going on. So you can smell it.
Ventilation.
Yeah, keep it ventilated. But